Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Charlotte, who's going to be talking about parenthood, managing parenthood and a teaching career. Charlotte, welcome. I'm not going to take up any of your 10 minutes, so please, over to you to share with us your thoughts.
Thank you, and it's great to be here. Thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of the MTPT project, so that stands for Maternity Teacher, Paternity Teacher Project. And in the 10 minutes that I've got, I'm going to give you a bit of information about who MTPT Project are, what we do as a charity and collective, a bit of context of where we are here and now with regards to parenthood and teaching, and then a couple of examples that in a workshop scenario we'd spend a lot more time thinking through and talking about, but just talk you through a couple of real life example case studies from our community, and then signpost you to where you could find out a bit more about the charity and how you can get involved. So MTPT Project was founded in 2016 by Emma Shepherd while she was on maternity leave with her first son. I should say that the phrase maternity leave is very specific to mothers who are taking leave, and we've seen already this morning the ways in which language is changing and shifting to accommodate and include a range of experiences and the ways in which families grow. So actually maternity leave is probably not a very apt phrase to use now. So we're tending to use the phrase childhood leave or childcare leave when we talk about leave taken to look after children, so that it includes a range of experiences, and I'll go a bit more detail in that later. So we inspire, empower and connect teachers who choose to complete professional development on their childcare leave or their parental leave, and we're the UK's only charity for parent teachers. So in a nutshell, that's what the charity does, but we're thinking about what it means to be a parent teacher today. And I want you to think about maybe some of the assumptions that we make, or our own biases, or the assumptions that maybe society imposes on us about what being a parent teacher might look like in the here and now. So you might want to think about your own experiences. You might want to think about how experiences differ based on gender identity, sexuality, age, race, ethnicity, religious identity. You might want to think about how your experience of being a parent teacher might be impacted by your level of responsibility within the school, whether you have a high teaching load, whether you have managerial responsibilities, whether you have a pastoral role in the school, can all impact how your experience of being a parent teacher might impact you. And then most crucially, and this is conversations we've been having a lot at MTPT Project recently, is how you choose to grow your family. Whether you grow your family through spontaneous pregnancy, whether you're going through IVF, whether you're fostering, adopting, or whether you're growing your family through surrogacy. All of these different ways to grow a family are not covered by law, and they're not covered by employment law. They're certainly not covered by sort of one-size-fits-all policies, maternity policies, paternity leave policies, adoption policies. There's a lot of, especially when it comes to IVF treatment, there are a lot of schools that don't have adequate IVF policies, but that is something that's changing. So I just want you to take a little bit of time and maybe put some comments down in the chat about what assumptions you have made, society makes, you feel your institution makes about what it means to be a parent teacher today. So one of the things that sort of drove MTPT Project to exist in the first place was that predominantly women in their 30s, aged between 30 and 39, are the largest demographic to leave teaching. And in any one year, there are about 11,500 women on childcare leave from the education sector. So that's what drove the project to start, and for Emma to found the project. And then since then, a range of experiences and other sort of problems that are facing parent teachers have arisen that we sort of sought to answer questions about and tackle head on. And it's not just MTPT Project who are trying to answer those questions and find solutions to those problems. Yesterday, Pregnant and Screwed took a letter to Downing Street to raise concerns about childcare and ask that to be reviewed. And we've also, there are very influential people like Anna Whitehouse who are campaigning for flexible working and more family-friendly, life-friendly ways of employers working. So if we were in a sort of live workshop session, we'd be doing this in sort of breakout groups and looking at some of these problems and trying to come up with solutions, but I'll just share 2 with you today, and then you might want to apply these to other areas in your workplace. And thinking, why should you care about this as an early career teacher? Maybe you're in your 20s, maybe you are not thinking about starting a family right now. But although the work of MTP project can seem really quite niche, I want you to consider how many teachers do you know who are parents? Do you think that maybe one day you might become a parent? And you're allowed to say no to that question. Do you think that maybe one day you might be responsible for line managing a parent teacher? And so when you start asking those more broader questions, that's when you start to realize that the work of MTPT project actually is applicable to pretty much every level of a school or an institution, all levels of responsibility. So I'm going to talk through a couple of scenarios and then share with you the real life solutions, and then you can apply these to other contexts in your institutions. And some of the solutions aren't immediately obvious at first, but I hope suggest how schools can be a little bit more inclusive in the way that they work with parent teachers. So these are the questions to think about when you're faced with these scenarios. What actions can an individual take, a line manager take, or a mentor take, and school leadership take? And then even maybe at a higher level, depending on the problem that needs to be solved or that needs to be addressed, governing boards of trustees. Then think about, well, what's the best outcome for all parties? And what steps do we need to take to get to that solution? And it might be that those steps are incremental. Okay, so in the yellow box, you'll see the sort of problem that was being faced, and in the green box, you'll see the solution that was taken. So these are real case scenarios, okay? A full-time teacher has recently returned from maternity leave, and she's suffering with anxiety and depression. She's had 2 days off last week due to exhaustion, and she's come to talk to you, her mentor, about her concerns and what support she can be put in place to help her. And it's cut off the bottom of the screen, but that says she explains that her baby doesn't sleep through the night yet, so she's up a lot. So she's up a lot during the night and coming in tired. She's got a full timetable. So the solution that was taken was that reasonable adjustments were put in place, and the teacher's timetable was amended so that she could, quote unquote, come in late 2 days a week, and that she had that option to not come into school till 9:30 on those 2 mornings. As a result of that, she actually took no sick days and hasn't used that arrangement yet. She hasn't had to come in late, quote unquote, to school so far this academic year, because just knowing that that option was there helped to relieve those elements of anxiety that she was feeling when she was up all night with her little one. Okay, and here's another that needed to be solved. There was a teacher on maternity leave, and she had a teaching and learning responsibility, and she wanted to return to work part-time following her maternity leave. Her initial request was denied by the school, and she was advised that she could return part-time, but she'd have to give back her TLR, so she'd have to not take that responsibility, sort of basically take a demotion for that. She didn't want that to happen, so she sought the advice of the MTPT project, and the advice she was given was essentially build a case study, don't take no for an answer. She built a sort of job share business plan, so how she was going to have her meet some of the requirements of her TLR, and how the TLR would actually be more beneficial to the school if it was shared between 2 people. She pitched that to the governing body, they agreed with her proposals, and she returned on a 0.6 contract. So sometimes it's about thinking a little bit out of the box and then going solutions focused with those conversations. So if you want to know more about MTPT Project, we've got a range of workshops coming up online and in person. We also do coffee mornings, both digital and in-person coffee mornings, which are basically social occasions to meet and network with other parent teachers. You can go to the website mtptproject.org.uk or go through Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook. And again, here's some signposts, some work that's really useful to start with if you're thinking about how you can make your school better for parent teachers. That's my little one in the background. He's having a hard time. He's having some big feelings. And thank you very much.
I mean, it's great, Charlotte, just to have the kids in the background, because it's a reminder of why you're here and what you're talking about. So please, it's not an issue. I mean, I always think we sometimes try and sort of like zoom out all the noise, but actually that's why this conversation is so important. So thank you for multitasking and juggling that. So one of the expressions that comes up quite a lot around the MTPT and flexible teacher talent kind of space is this idea of what does it mean to have a family-friendly school, and the irony that actually our sector is full of parent teachers, but it's not always, our schools aren't always that family-friendly for the actual adults in the building. Could you share a couple of examples of best practice you've seen or heard about where schools are really making that commitment to making their schools family-friendly? Just use your outside voice, it's all good.
Yeah, so actually the MTPT project is working on accrediting and family-friendly schools and giving them the family-friendly mark, which means that they can advertise that they are a family-friendly institution in job applications, for example. So examples of a family-friendly school, it doesn't necessarily just need to be family-friendly. People who choose not to have families also have lives outside school that can be curtailed by the life of education sector. And so sometimes it's about thinking, well, what's life friendly rather than just family friendly. But some examples might be that that there is time given to that there is time given for parents to drop their child off on their very first day of school, that their lessons are covered for them to do that first drop off for their child's first day at school, that time is allowed for nativity plays or harvest festivals that schools are doing, special assemblies that a school might be doing, and that life of that school and the life of their child is also celebrated. There are some great examples of schools timetabling parents so that all of their PPA time falls on one day, so that they then have that work from home day and they do their PPA at home, which means that they're able to do drop off and pick up or take their child to swimming at 4 o'clock rather than not their child missing out on that. So sometimes it's tweaks rather than changing, and those tweaks build a culture rather than thinking that everything has to change at once. And taking those small incremental steps and being responsive to the context of your school and your workforce. It's not one size fits all. Just like you adapt your curriculum to suit the needs of your students, you adapt your school culture and your policies to be inclusive of your staff body.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for that reframe, because the language reframe's coming up a lot this morning already about moving from maternity leave to childcare leave. It's more inclusive for all parents and carers, and life-friendly rather than family-friendly, because actually we all have families in different ways, and you don't need to have children necessarily to have family responsibilities either.
It's one of those things that we've come across. MTPT Project have been working as a charity to write a book this last year, and one of the things that's really astounded us is the way in which the language of childcare leave is so gendered and
absolutely,
and so uninclusive. So if you are in a same-sex couple and you are not the primary child carer, then you take paternity leave. That's what it's called legally, irrespective of whether you identify as being a father or not. Likewise with adoption leave, it's so murky, and it can leave you actually feeling like that your way to grow a family and your way to manage that isn't accommodated by the law, when actually it's the semantics of the law and the policy that are making you feel like there isn't a space for the family that you've chosen to grow and how you've chosen to grow your family.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking about kit days. I used to work with Emma years and years and years ago, and I know she's done lots of work at the trust we were at together around how we use those kit days, because the kit days aren't always used in a really productive way. What are some of your ideas about how the kit days can be used to help people in that transition back into the classroom post having a child?
Yeah, well, kit days or keeping in touch days are sort of surrounded by red tape, and sometimes that red tape is not real red tape. It's just red tape that we think's there. So when I was on leave with my first, I was told I couldn't take kit days from home. I could only take kit days and be paid for them if I was in the actual building, which is completely false. I could have taken kit days remotely. Likewise, and this is true, this is in the policy, that kit days, you get paid a day rate, and if you only work a morning, you've used up that kit day. You can't split a day and do 2 mornings and count that as 1 day. So that's something to bear in mind if you are thinking of taking kit days. But there is flexibility around being able to take them remotely. Timetabling a day so that if you're still exclusively breastfeeding your child, or if you need to pump, or if you need somewhere where you, kit days are one of those things that they're great if you have childcare available for someone to look after your child. So allowing and accommodating that child being in school for that period of time can relieve some of the burden as well.
Brilliant, that's great. Charlotte, thank you so much for representing the charity today. It's great to hear the update, and good luck with the launch of the book. We'll be amplifying that when it comes out in April.